The cartographer's paradox and the blank space, the sanctuary of dust. We begin our journey not under the open sky, nor amidst the shifting dunes of the great deserts, but in a place far quieter, and perhaps far more mysterious. Close your eyes and imagine the heavy wooden door of the world closing behind you. The noise of the modern day fades into a hum, and then into nothingness. You are standing now in the cool, blue-shadowed silence of an ancient archive. The air here is different. It is still. It is an atmosphere that has been held in suspension for centuries, preserved like a breath taken long ago and never released. Breathe it in. It smells of curing leather, of old glue made from bone and resin, and of parchment that has not seen the golden light of the sun since the days of the tall ships. It is the scent of time itself, dry, sweet, and heavy with the weight of secrets. In this room, the only light comes from narrow, high windows, filtering the afternoon sun into distinct, solid beams. Within these shafts of light, millions of dust motes dance in a slow, endless waltz. They turn and drift, golden specks in the gloom, settling upon rows and rows of iron-bound books. This is a sanctuary of memory. Here, the world is not made of earth and stone, but of ink and paper. The mountains are reduced to jagged lines of black. The oceans are washes of faded indigo. The great empires are merely names scripted in elegant, looping calligraphy. We have come here to find something specific. We walk past the shelves of history, past the chronicles of kings and the ledgers of merchants, to the section where the maps are kept. We are looking for the atlases of the unknown. Put your hand upon a heavy volume. Feel the texture of the cover, cracked leather, rough and cool to the touch, scarred by the passage of 400 years. You lift the cover. It groans softly, the sound of a sleeping giant shifting in its slumber. You turn the pages, the heavy vellum crinkling with the sound of dry autumn leaves. We are looking for the places that the old mapmakers called terra incognita, the unknown land. But we are not looking for the edges of the map, where the dragons were drawn to hide the ignorance of the explorer. We are looking for something far more unsettling. We are looking for the paradox of the vanished city. Historians have long whispered about a strange anomaly found in these archives. If you look at a map from the mid-15th century, you might see a city drawn in the heart of the deep desert, or deep within the green veil of the Amazon. It is detailed. It has a name. It has towers, marked with tiny, precise strokes of the pen. It has trade routes leading to its gates, dotted lines suggesting the movement of caravans and camels. It exists. But then turn the page. Open an atlas from 50 years later. Look at the same spot. The desert is there. The mountains are there. The river bends in the same serpentine curve. But the city is gone. There is no ruin marked. There is no note of conquest or fire. There is simply empty, beige parchment, a blank space, a void where a civilization used to be. This chapter of our story is an invitation to look at that negative space, to stare into the emptiness and ask, what happened in the room when the cartographer decided to dip his quill in ink, hover over the paper, and choose silence instead of truth? The ink and the illusion. Let us drift into the mind of that mapmaker. Imagine him, sitting in a tower in Venice, or perhaps a monastery in Lisbon, at night. The only sound is the scratching of a quill and the rhythmic ticking of a mechanical clock, measuring out a time that feels slower than our own. He holds the knowledge of the world in his hands. Travelers come to him, sunburnt men with salt in their beards and sand in their boots. They tell him stories in hushed voices. They speak of a city of white stone that sings when the wind blows through its spires. They speak of the city of brass, or Zerzura, the oasis of little birds. They speak of gates that open only when the moon is full. The cartographer listens. He dips his pen into the inkwell, a black liquid that looks like the night sky captured in a glass bottle. He brings the tip of the nib to the paper. He knows the coordinates. He knows the legends. For a moment, the city exists on the tip of his pen, ready to be borne onto the map. But then, he hesitates. This is the moment of the paradox. Why does he pull back? Why does he leave the paper bare? Perhaps he realized that to map a place is to change it. To draw a city is to invite the world to its doorstep. To name a mystery is to kill it. There is a profound psychology in lost geography. We, as humans, are obsessed with the idea of the hidden place. We dream of valleys that have never known the footprint of a soldier. We dream of libraries buried beneath the dunes, filled with scrolls that explain the movement of the stars. We call these places by many names: El Dorado, Shambhala, Atlantis. But in the whispers of the ancient trade routes, there were other names, smaller names, known only to a few. The maps tell a story of hesitation. In the 1400s, the world was expanding. The white spaces were being filled. Every island needed a flag. Every mountain needed a name. And yet, amidst this frenzy to know everything, certain places were quietly erased. Was it an error? Did the travelers confess they were lying? Or was it an act of protection? Imagine the cartographer looking at his map, a crowded, busy thing, filled with the noise of civilization. And then, he looks at that one spot in the desert. He thinks of the stories of the city that sleeps in peace, untouched by the wars of empires, untouched by the greed of kings. And gently, deliberately, he wipes the nib of his pen clean. He leaves the space blank. He creates a terra incognita, not because he doesn't know what is there, but because he knows too well. He gifts the city its anonymity. He wraps it in the cloak of the unknown to keep it safe. The atmosphere of the map changes when you view it this way. The blank spaces are not failures of exploration. They are sanctuaries. They are the silence between the notes of a song. They are the pauses in a conversation where the most important things are said. The invitation of the void as we sit in this quiet archive, the dust settling around us like falling snow. We must ask ourselves, did the city disappear because it was destroyed? Or did it disappear because it chose to hide? There are legends in the oldest texts that speak of civilizations that saw the storm of history approaching. They saw the rise of iron and fire, and instead of building higher walls, they built deeper shadows. They learned the art of stillness. They learned how to become the mirage. Perhaps the cartographer was part of the conspiracy. Perhaps the blank space on the map is actually a sigil, a sign that says, "Look away. There is nothing here for you." But for us, the dreamers, the blank space is a magnet. Run your finger over the empty parchment in the center of the desert. Feel the texture of the vellum. It is smooth, vast, and silent. It is said that if you stare into these empty spaces long enough, you begin to see things that ink cannot capture. You see the faint outline of a tower shimmering in the heat haze. You hear the chime of a bell that rings only in the memory of the wind. The erasure of the city is not an ending. It is a transformation. By vanishing from the map, the city moved from the realm of geography into the realm of myth. It moved from the earth to the sky. It became eternal because it can no longer be found. We float through this idea that some things are sacred only because they are secret. That the world needs mystery just as the body needs sleep. If every corner of the earth were mapped, photographed, and catalogued, where would the imagination rest? The blank space is the resting place. As we prepare to leave the archive, we do not close the book. We leave the heavy atlas open to that specific page. We leave the vast, beige expanse of the empty quarter exposed to the dim light of the library. The ink has faded on the rest of the map. The names of the great capitals are hard to read, but the blank space remains pristine. It is waiting. It invites us to step off the edge of the known world. It invites us to walk into the white space, where the laws of physics and history dissolve, and where the realm of shadow begins. The candle flickers. The dust motes slow their dance. The library seems to hold its breath, and in the silence of the map, in that space where the city used to be, we can almost hear a voice, soft, ancient, and welcoming, whispering from the other side of the paper. "We are still here," it says. "We are simply waiting for the world to be quiet enough to hear us." The quill is laid down. The ink is dry. The map is drawn, but the truth lies in what was left unwritten. And as the shadows lengthen across the floor of the archive, we realize that the journey is not about finding the city. It is about understanding the beauty of the empty space that keeps it safe. Let the image of the blank parchment fill your mind. Let it become a field of white snow, or a sea of white fog, or the endless expanse of the stars. Drift into the white space. The map ends here. The dream begins. The crossing of the great silence, the ocean of dust. We leave the library now. The heavy wooden door clicks shut behind us, sealing away the scent of parchment and the safety of the known world. We turn, and before us lies the threshold of the true journey. We are standing on the edge of the map. Before us stretches the vast, undulating ocean of the deep desert. Or perhaps, in the shifting mists of your imagination, it is an impenetrable jungle, a sea of green leaves that goes on forever. The geography matters less than the isolation. It is a place where the earth has swallowed the works of man, leaving only the raw, elemental silence of the planet. Step forward. The ground beneath your feet is soft, yielding, and ancient. We are entering the great silence. Here, the sun is not a harsh tyrant. It is a golden lantern suspended in a sky of pale, washed-out indigo. It bathes the world in a soft, amber haze, blurring the line where the earth meets the heavens. There is no sharp definition here, no jagged edges of modern life. Everything is soft. Everything is rounded by the wind and the passage of 10,000 years. We begin to move. Imagine the slow, swaying motion of a caravan. It is a rhythm that enters the blood, a gentle rocking, back and forth, like a cradle. We are moving through a landscape that refuses to change. You look to the left, and there is the endless rise and fall of the dunes, looking like waves of gold frozen in time. You look to the right, and the horizon is a permanent, shimmering line of heat that dances and retreats. It feels as though we are walking on a treadmill of sand. No matter how far we travel, the scenery remains the same. This is the first lesson of the crossing. Patience. The modern mind seeks landmarks. It seeks signs of progress. But here, in the deep waste, there is only the now. The journey becomes a loop. The sound of the wind, the soft crunch of sand, the swaying of the horizon creates a hypnotic cycle. Listen to the silence. It is not an empty silence. It is not the absence of sound. It is a heavy silence. It is thick, like a blanket. It presses against your skin. It is the weight of geological time. What you are hearing is the sound of the wind carving rock, a process that takes millions of years. It is a sound so constant, so low in frequency, that it becomes a kind of stillness. It is the hum of the earth itself. Allow yourself to sink into this sound. Let it drown out the noise of your day. There is no urgency here. The desert does not rush. The sand does not hurry. And neither must we. We are simply drifting, specks of dust floating in a golden beam of light, moving toward a destination we cannot yet see. The fugue of the traveler. As the hours stretch into an undefined ribbon of time, a change comes over the traveler. The ancients called it the desert fugue. It is a state of mind where the anxieties of the present moment simply detach and float away, like seeds caught in a breeze. In this landscape of repetition, the mind stops trying to calculate arrival times. It stops worrying about what was left behind. The monotony becomes a meditation. One step, another step, the sway of the caravan, the breath in, the breath out. You find yourself entering a trance. The boundaries of your own body seem to dissolve into the heat haze. You are no longer separate from the landscape. You are part of it. You are the wind. You are the sand. You are the silence. And as the golden lantern of the sun begins to dip lower, painting the dunes in shades of copper and violet, we begin to understand how the ancient ones navigated this void. They did not use maps of paper, for the dunes shift with every storm, erasing the path within hours. A map is useless here. Instead, they navigated by the song. Whispers tell us that the old travelers could read the color of the twilight to know where water lay hidden. They could feel the temperature of the wind on their cheek and know if a mountain range lay 100 miles to the east. They listen to the sand, for sand sings when it slides down the face of a high dune, a low, booming drone that resonates in the chest. They navigated by feeling. They navigated by intuition. And as the light fails, we look up. The sky is turning a deep, velvet purple, and the first stars emerge. Here, far from the fires of any city, the stars are not distant, cold points of light. They look heavy. They look close enough to touch, like chandeliers hanging just above the reach of our hands. This is the true map, the oldest map. The constellations are the only things that do not move in this fluid world. We follow the belt of the hunter. We follow the seven sisters. We are guided by light that left its source before this desert was even a desert, when this land was a green savanna. We are walking through a memory of the earth, and then, in the deepening gloom, we see it, an anomaly. It breaks the perfect, organic curve of the dunes. It is a shape that nature does not make. We stop the caravan. We walk toward it, our boots sinking into the cooling sand. It is a single block of stone, massive, perfectly square. It is half buried in the side of a dune, revealed by the wind only for a moment. It is made of black basalt, polished so smooth that it reflects the starlight. Why is it here? Miles from any quarry, miles from any water? We run a hand over the cool, dark surface. The corners are sharp. The geometry is flawless. It is a breadcrumb. It is a marker left by the lost civilization, a signpost that says, "You are on the correct path. Keep going." And then, another sign. Above us, in the darkening sky, a bird flies past. But it is not a bird of prey, not a creature of the wasteland. Its feathers catch the last light, a flash of iridescent emerald green and sapphire blue. It is a bird that belongs to a lush garden, a creature of water and shade. It flies with purpose, heading straight into the deep dark of the horizon. We follow the bird. We follow the stone. We follow the silence. The blue hour. The sun has vanished now. The world has entered the blue hour. This is the most sacred time in the desert. It is the time of transition. The heat of the day lifts, rising up into the atmosphere, and a cool, gentle breath descends from the heavens. The colors of the world are reduced to shades of indigo, charcoal, and silver. The silence deepens. It becomes crystalline. We feel a change in the air. It is subtle, like a shift in barometric pressure before a storm, but there are no clouds. It is a spiritual pressure. The air feels charged. It feels electric. We are close. We cannot see the city yet. The horizon is still a blur of shadow, but we can feel it. It is said that the forbidden city is so old, and sits so heavy upon the earth, that it creates a vibration, a low, resonant hum that travels through the bedrock. As we walk, we can feel this vibration in the soles of our feet. It is a heartbeat. It is the pulse of a machine that was switched off thousands of years ago, yet still holds a ghostly charge. The landscape begins to change ever so slightly. The dunes are no longer random. They seem to ripple outward from a central point, like waves moving away from a stone dropped in a pond. We are walking against the ripples, moving toward the center. The wind dies down completely. The air becomes perfectly still. The dust settles, and ahead of us, through the blue veil of the twilight, we see a shape rising from the flatness. It is not a mountain. It is too jagged, too vertical. It cuts a silhouette against the stars that is undeniably architectural. It is a tower, or perhaps a gate. It stands wrapped in the cloak of the night, waiting. It does not look ruined. It looks patient. We stop. We do not rush the final approach. We stand in the blue silence, breathing in the cool air, letting the air wash over us. We have crossed the great silence. We have walked the ocean of dust, and now, the shore is in sight. The mystery is no longer a rumor. It is a shadow standing before us. We wait here for a moment, suspended in the wonder of the discovery. The journey has stripped away the noise of our minds. We are empty vessels, ready to be filled with the secrets of the stone. The stars circle overhead. The sand cools beneath our feet, and from the darkness ahead, the silence of the city reaches out to welcome us home. The mirage and the architecture of cloud the fluid horizon. The further we walk, the less the world obeys the laws of stone and gravity. We have crossed the ocean of silence, and now, we enter the zone of the tremor. Here, reality begins to bend. The air itself seems to lose its transparency, thickening into a heavy, shimmering curtain. You look to the horizon, expecting to see the flat, reassuring line of the earth meeting the sky. But there is no line. There is only a vibration. The heat rises from the ground in great, wavering ribbons, twisting the landscape into shapes that have no name. This is the domain of the mirage. In the ancient texts, the travelers did not call this an optical illusion. They called it the veil of spirits. They believed that the hidden city was not merely lost, but protected. Protected not by armies or walls of iron, but by a barrier of pure light. Walk with me into this shimmering cathedral of heat. The atmosphere here is liquid. The dry desert air ripples like water disturbed by a stone. Objects in the distance, a dune, rock, a withered tree, begin to detach themselves from the ground. They float, they stretch, they dance in the suspended haze, defying the weight of the earth. It is a test. It is said that the city defends itself by reading the heart of the seeker. It holds up a mirror composed of refracted light and dust, and it shows you not what is there, but what you most desperately wish to see. If you are thirsty, the horizon becomes a vast, silver lake, cool and rippling with phantom winds. If you are greedy, the sand turns to valleys of gold dust, and if you are seeking the lost city, the air itself will build it for you. Up there, suspended in the copper sky, hovering 1,000 feet above the ground. Do you see it? Towering minarets made of pearl and mist, aqueducts of spun glass carrying water that falls into nothingness, domes of impossible geometry shimmering like soap bubbles, fragile and iridescent. This is the architecture of cloud. It is a city built of breath and sunbeams. The language of this place is gossamer. It is spectral. It is a world painted in watercolors on a canvas that is wet and running. The towers elongate, stretching up to touch the sun, and then collapse into themselves like a sigh. We walk towards it, drawn by the beauty of the illusion. But this is the trap of the mirage. For every step we take towards the spectral gate, the gate recedes. It keeps its distance, always 1 mile away, always just beyond the reach of the hand. It is a lesson in desire. To chase the illusion is to die in the waste. We must close our eyes to see the truth. We must stop walking with our feet and start walking with our intent. We must ignore the glittering palaces in the sky and focus on the heavy, silent earth beneath our boots. We must breathe in the dry air and whisper to the wind that we are not here for the dream. We are here for the stone, the geometry of longing. Let us pause here, in the midst of this hallucination, and consider the nature of the ghost city. There are legends, whispered around fires in the caravansaries of the Silk Road, of cities that only solidify for those who do not seek them. They say that the hidden kingdom is shy. It recoils from the direct gaze of the conqueror. It is like a deer in the forest. If you crash through the brush with nets and spears, you will find nothing but empty clearings. But if you sit still, if you become part of the silence, the forest will reveal itself to you. The mirage is the city's immune system. It filters the travelers. It turns back those who are captivated by the surface, by the glitter, by the easy promise of glory. We watch the phantom structures shift and morph. A great wall appears to the east, built of suspended gold dust, glowing with an internal fire. It looks solid enough to climb, but as a cloud passes over the sun, the wall dissolves into a veil of yellow mist, blowing away on a wind we cannot feel. It is beautiful, this impermanence. It is a meditation on the nature of civilization itself. Are not all our great cities, in the eyes of time, merely mirages? Do they not all eventually crumble into dust and memory, leaving only a shimmering outline in the history books? The architecture of cloud reminds us that we project our dreams onto the blank canvas of the wild. We fill the empty spaces of the map with our own longing, but we are looking for something that does not dissolve. We are looking for the immutable point. The sun begins to dip lower. The angle of the light changes, and as the heat of the day begins to bleed away into the cooling sand, the engine of the mirage begins to fail. The shimmering curtain slows its vibration. The floating towers in the sky lose their coherence. They drift apart like smoke. The silver lakes evaporate into gray sand. The world begins to settle. The liquid air hardens. The false city is fading. And as the veil lifts, we feel a shift in the atmosphere. The playfulness of the light is replaced by a solemn gravity. The wind dies down completely, as if a great hand has been placed over the mouth of the desert. The silence returns, but it is different now. It is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of presence. Something is waiting for us in the growing twilight. Something that was hidden behind the curtain of heat. We keep walking, our eyes adjusting to the dimming light. The purple dusk rises from the ground like a tide. And there, ahead of us, the landscape is broken by a shape that does not waver, It does not float. It does not shimmer. It sits heavy and dark against the violet sky. The threshold of obsidian, the illusion is gone. The reality remains. Standing stark and undeniable before us is a wall. It is not a wall of gold or mist. It is a wall of dark, unweathered stone. It rises from the sand like a cliff face, sheer and vertical, stretching north and south as far as the eye can see. It is seamless. There are no mortar joints, no cracks where the wind has eaten away the rock. It looks as though it was cut from a single, colossal block of obsidian or black basalt, brought here from the core of a dying star. We have passed through the test of the mirage and arrived at the threshold of the forbidden. Approach it slowly. The air here is cold, unnaturally so. It chills the sweat on your brow. The stone seems to absorb the light, drinking in the last rays of the sun and giving nothing back. It is a void in the landscape, a black hole in the shape of a fortress. Reach out your hand. This is the moment of contact. This is where the dream becomes tactile. Your fingertips brush against the surface of the wall. It is freezing cold, smoother than glass, smoother than water. It feels unnatural, yet perfectly elemental. And as your palm rests against the dark stone, you feel it, a vibration. It is faint, incredibly low, buzzing against the skin of your hand. It hums through your fingertips, travels up your arm, and resonates in your chest. It is a frequency of energy that has been waiting for thousands of years. It is the hum of a machine that is sleeping, not dead. It is the sound of a city that is holding its breath. You press your ear against the cold obsidian. Beneath the silence of the desert, beneath the roar of the wind that is now gone, you hear something. Is it the sound of running water deep within the earth? Is it the rhythmic ticking of a clockwork mechanism? Or is it the echo of 1,000 voices chanting in a language that has not been spoken since the ice covered the world? The wall stands as a barrier between the known and the unknown. Behind us lies the desert, the mirage, the world of shifting sands and fading memories. Before us lies the heavy, permanent truth of the hidden city. We have found it. Or perhaps, it has allowed us to find it. The purple dust turns to night. The stars emerge, reflecting in the polished black surface of the wall, so that we are standing between two skies, one above, and one mirrored in the stone. We stand at the gate that is not a gate, touching the silence that is not a silence. Rest here. Let the vibration of the stone steady your heart. The illusion is over. The journey inward is about to begin. The gate that opens only to the moon, the silence of the threshold. We are standing now at the end of the world, or perhaps at the beginning of a new one. The heat of the desert has finally broken. The mirage has dissolved into the cool, blue clarity of the night. And before us, rising like a shadow against the stars, stands the gate. It is not a gate of iron, rusted by the centuries. It is not a gate of wood, rotted by the dry wind. It is a monolith. A single, seamless slab of black stone obsidian, or perhaps basalt polished to a shine so deep it looks like a slice of the midnight sky brought down to earth. Reach out your hand in the darkness. You expect the stone to be rough, pitted by the sandstorms of 10,000 years. But it is smooth, unnaturally smooth. It feels like glass that has been cooled in the heart of a glacier. This is the threshold. In every ancient culture, the door is a sacred symbol. It is the dividing line between the profane world, the world of noise, of trade, of survival, and the sanctified space. To cross a threshold is to change. You cannot bring the dust of the desert into the temple. You must leave the old self behind. Let us look closer at the surface of the stone. As your eyes adjust to the gloom, you see that the black slab is not empty. It is etched with carvings. But these are not the carvings we are used to seeing in the ruins of empires. There are no chariots here, no kings holding spears, no lions being hunted, no lists of conquered cities. This civilization did not carve its history in blood. It carved its history in light. Trace the lines with your eyes. They are geometric, precise. They look like the orbital paths of planets. They look like the spirals of galaxies. There are circles intersecting with triangles, mathematically perfect, etched with a tool that must have been finer than a laser, yet wielded by hands that vanished millennia ago. Here, near the top, is a representation of the Pleiades. Below it, A perfect sine wave, a visual representation of sound, or perhaps of water. What kind of people chose to cover their front door with physics instead of propaganda? What kind of mind values the movement of the stars over the movement of armies? It suggests a society that looked up, rather than out, a people who were more concerned with harmony than expansion. The atmosphere here is heavy with a specific kind of gravity. It is the feeling you get when you step into a cathedral when it is empty, or a library after hours. It is the weight of hallowed air. We stand before the gate, intruders in the dark. There is no handle, there is no keyhole, there is no mechanism that a human hand can operate. We are not meant to force our way in. We are meant to wait, the key of light, and then the universe begins to turn. Above the jagged line of the eastern horizon, the moon begins to rise. It is full, heavy, and silver, a white coin tossed into the velvet sea of the night. The light hits the desert floor, painting the dunes in shades of bone and pewter. The shadow of the gate stretches out behind us, long and sharp. We watch the light climb. It touches the base of the black wall. It creeps upward, inch by inch, as the moon ascends its celestial ladder. This is the mechanism. This gate was not built for the schedule of man. It does not open when a king commands it. It opens only when the cosmos aligns. It is a lock made of time. Watch the center of the obsidian slab. Embedded deep within the black stone, visible until this very moment, is a crystal. It is no larger than a human eye, faceted like a diamond, but dark as smoky quartz. The beam of moonlight climbs higher. It touches the bottom edge of the carving. It traces the spiral of the galaxy. And then, with the inevitability of the tide, the light strikes the crystal. For a moment, nothing happens. The world holds its breath. Then, a sound. It is not the screech of rusted metal. It is not the grinding of heavy gears. It is a sound like a deep exhalation. Like a whale surfacing in a quiet ocean. Like a choir inhaling before the first note. The crystal begins to glow. A soft, pale blue luminescence spreads from the center, running along the geometric lines etched into the stone. The star charts light up. The orbital paths ignite with a cold fire. The gate is waking up. And then, the stone changes. It does not swing open. It does not lift. It simply ceases to be solid. The obsidian seems to liquefy. It turns into a curtain of dark mist, dissolving into the air, revealing the passage beyond. The barrier is gone. The moon has turned the key. We step forward. We cross the line where the stone used to be. We step from the desert into the memory, the breath of the city. The first thing you notice is the air. Outside, the desert air was dry, thin, and smelled of dust and ozone. But here, the air is different. Take a deep breath. It is cool. It sits heavy in the lungs, rich and sweet. It smells of damp stone. It smells of jasmine that bloomed 1,000 years ago. It smells of deep, subterranean water. How is this possible? We are surrounded by a wasteland, yet inside these walls, the atmosphere has been preserved. We have walked into a time capsule. This is the breath of the city. We are standing in a long, high corridor that leads from the gate into the heart of the settlement. The walls here are tall and smooth, curving upward to form a vaulted ceiling that blocks out the sky. We are intruders, yes, but we do not feel unwelcome. There is no sense of menace here, no traps waiting in the dark. Instead, there is a feeling of patience. It feels as if the city has been holding its breath for 50 centuries, waiting for a witness, waiting for someone to come and breathe this air, to verify that it still exists. Walk with me down the corridor. Our footsteps make no sound. The floor is paved with a material that absorbs noise, a soft, matte stone that feels like velvet underfoot. The light from the moon follows us in, but it is joined now by a secondary light. The walls themselves are glowing. A faint, silver luminescence seems to emanate from the quartz veins within the rock. It is not bright enough to read by, but it is enough to see the way. It is the ghost light of the ancients. We reach the end of the corridor and step out into the open, and there it is, the Avenue of Silence. We are looking down a long, straight street lined with buildings of pale stone. They are not ruined. They are not crumbled. They stand perfect and pristine, their edges sharp, their balconies intact, but they are empty. There are no doors rotting on their hinges. There is no furniture scattered in the street. It is clean. It is ordered. The silver light washes over the scene, turning the city into a photograph developed in mercury. It is beautiful, and it is terribly, wonderfully lonely. This is not a place of the dead. It is a place of the sleeping. You can feel the peace here. It is a physical weight. It is the peace of a library after the last patron has left. The peace of a forest in the dead of winter. We walk down the center of the avenue. To our left, a fountain that is dry, but the basin is polished and clean. To our right, a tower that spirals up toward the stars, its windows dark. Why did they leave? Or if they did not leave, where are they? The silence offers no answer, but it does offer comfort. There is no chaos here. There is only the sacred geometry of the streets, the soft glow of the walls, and the smell of jasmine drifting from gardens that should have withered eons ago. We have crossed the threshold. We are inside the mystery, and as we walk deeper into the Silver City, the gate behind us begins to solidify again. The moon has passed its zenith. The crystal darkens. The obsidian returns. We are sealed inside, wrapped in the safety of the stone, alone with the history that sleeps beneath the earth. Drift now. Walk the empty streets. The city is yours. The avenue of whispers and shadows, the city of silence. We have crossed the threshold, and now, the world of the desert is but a memory. We are walking the streets of the forbidden city. The first thing you notice is the sound of your own footsteps, or rather, the lack of it. The streets here are not paved with cobblestones that clatter, nor with beaten earth that stirs up dust. They are paved with a smooth, pale stone, matte and cool to the touch, a material that seems to drink sound. Every step we take is swallowed by the ground. We move through the city like ghosts, gliding over a surface that was designed for silence. Look up. The architecture here resembles no known human settlement. There are no chaotic clusters of houses, no cramped alleyways born of necessity. Instead, the city is a poem of verticality. Tall, slender towers rise into the night sky, their surfaces seamless and pale, glowing softly in the starlight. They look like needles of bone or ivory, piercing the velvet canopy of the heavens. Connecting these towers, high above our heads, is a web of bridges. They are delicate arcs, some carved from polished marble, others miraculously spun from a glass so clear it is almost invisible. They look like spider webs frozen in frost, linking the spires in a network of light. As we walk deeper, we begin to realize what is missing. In Babylon, in Rome, in Thebes, a city is defined by its noise and its commerce. There are marketplaces where coins change hands. There are barracks where soldiers sharpen iron. There are courts where laws are argued. But here, there is none of that. There are no stalls for merchants. There are no walls built for defense. There are no statues of kings holding swords. This was a city designed for a different purpose. It was not built for trade. It was not built for war. It was built for reflection. The layout is spacious, breathable. Every building is oriented to catch the light of the moon or the rising sun. Every window frames a specific patch of the sky. It is a city that functions as a telescope, a machine made of stone designed to observe the universe. We feel a sense of profound calm here. The air is still. The shadows are long and soft, stretching across the white pavement like the hands of a clock moving across a dial. We are alone, and yet, the city does not feel dead. It feels paused. The domestic mystery. We drift closer to the buildings. We are drawn to the intimacy of the empty windows, the open doorways that have no locks. This is the domestic mystery of the lost ones. On a low balcony, resting on a ledge of smooth obsidian, we find a cup. It is small, simple, made of a ceramic that shines with an iridescent glaze. It sits there, upright, waiting. It is not cracked. It is not buried in sand. It looks as though someone placed it there only moments ago, perhaps to watch the sunset, and simply forgot to retrieve it. Further down the avenue, we see a window shuttered halfway. A breeze must have moved it, or perhaps a hand left it ajar to let in the night air. Inside, we catch glimpses of rooms that are sparse and clean. There are mats woven from a silver fiber that has not decayed. There are low tables. There are bowls, but there is no dust. This is the strangest detail of all. In any other ruin, the desert would have reclaimed these rooms. Sand would be piled in the corners. Spiders would have woven their webs across the doorways. But here, the surfaces are pristine. It is as if the city repels the decay of time. It is as if the air itself is a preservative, keeping the memory of the inhabitants fresh. The emotional arc of this place is one of calm abandonment. There are no signs of struggle, no overturned chairs, no hastily packed bags, no scorch marks on the walls. It does not look like a place that was fled in panic. It looks like a place that was left with intention. Imagine the inhabitants standing up, all at once, in response to a silent signal. Imagine them walking out of their doors, leaving their cups on the ledges, leaving their books open on the tables, and simply walking away. Or perhaps, walking up, walking into the sky. We use the word vanished. But here, it feels more like ascended. We sit for a moment on a bench of cool marble, carved into the shape of a curling wave. We watch the shadows lengthen. We feel the profound peace of a place that has been asleep for millennia. And as we sit, we begin to hear it. The song of the stone. It starts as a whisper, a low, vibrating hum that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The wind has picked up, blowing gently from the open desert through the grit of the city. But the wind here does not howl. It does not whistle through cracks. The city is an instrument. The tall, slender towers are aligned with mathematical precision. The gaps between them, the fluting on the columns, the curvature of the glass bridges, it was all tuned. As the wind moves through the streets, it creates a chord, a low, harmonic resonance. It is a sound that vibrates in the chest, a frequency that induces a state of immediate, deep relaxation. It is a continuous ohm, a hymn sung by the architecture itself. We realize now how they lived in such perfect stillness. They lived inside a song. The constant hum would have served as a meditative focus, a background frequency that aligned the mind and slowed the heart. To live here was to be in a perpetual state of trance. It suggests that their life was one of a continuous, waking dream. They did not separate the spiritual from the mundane. Their streets were temples. Their homes were observatories. Their wind was a choir. We stand up and follow the sound. It seems to be leading us toward the center of the city. We walk down the final stretch of the Avenue of Whispers. The buildings pull back, opening up into a vast, circular space. We have reached the heart of the mystery. In the center of Rome, there is a forum. In the center of London, a clock. But here, in the center of the Forbidden City, there is no statue of a conqueror. There is no monument to a victory in war. Instead, dominating the public square is a machine of light. It is a massive mirror. It is circular, perhaps 50 feet across, framed in a dark metal that absorbs the light. But the surface of the mirror is liquid silver, polished to a perfection that defies physics. And it is tilted. It does not face the horizon. It does not face the street. It is angled upward, fixed forever in a specific position, pointing toward a specific sector of the northern sky. We walk to the edge of the mirror. We look into its surface. It reflects the stars with such clarity that they look brighter in the reflection than they do in the sky. It amplifies the light. It brings the cosmos down to the earth. This was their king. This was their God. The connection to the infinite. The mirror stands silent, waiting for the star it was built to watch, to return to its rightful place in the great cycle of the ages. And as we stand there, bathed in the starlight reflected from the silver pool, we understand. They did not leave the city. They simply followed the path that the mirror showed them. They became the silence. The library of dust and starlight, the sanctum of the mind. We leave the silver light of the public square and approach the largest structure in the city. It sits at the northern edge of the plaza, a massive, hemispherical dome that rises from the earth, like a second moon half buried in the ground. The exterior is simple, unadorned white stone, smooth as an eggshell. There are no grand staircases leading up to it, no statues guarding the entrance. There is only a tall, narrow archway, open to the night air. It is a mouth of shadow, waiting to swallow the light. We step through the archway. The transition is immediate. The air inside is cooler, drier. It smells of ozone and static electricity. the scent of a storm that passed through 1,000 years ago and left its charge trapped in the stone. We are standing in the central rotunda of the Forbidden City. This is the brain of the civilization. This is the library of lost things. But as your eyes adjust to the dim light, you realize that this is not a library as we understand it. We look for the familiar comforts of knowledge. We look for rows of wooden shelves smelling of cedar. We look for the crumbling spines of leather-bound books, for the rustle of papyrus scrolls, for the heavy clay tablets of the accountants. There are none. The walls of the dome curve upward, spiraling higher and higher until they meet in darkness far above our heads. And lining these walls, floor to ceiling, are thousands upon thousands of niches, and in each niche, there rests a single object. Walk closer. Let us examine the medium of their memory. They are not books. They are thin, translucent sheets of crystal. Or perhaps they are sheets of a metal so rare and fine that it has become glass-like. They shimmer with a faint, pearlescent luster, catching the ambient light and splitting it into soft rainbows. There are no ink stains here. There is no fading pigment. This is a library that defies time. Paper rots, vellum cracks, clay crumbles into dust. But crystal? Crystal is the brother of the diamond. It is eternal. The silence here is crushing. It is not just the absence of noise. It is the presence of a vast, suspended intelligence. It feels as though we have walked into a server room made of stone, or the mind of a sleeping god. The library is in hibernation. It is waiting for a reader who knows how to wake it up. Look up at the ceiling of the dome. Piercing the roof are hundreds of tiny, angled vents, cut with the precision of a jeweler. They are designed to track the movement of the heavens. As the stars wheel overhead, their light is caught by these vents and channeled down into the chamber. Beams of pure starlight, thin as laser filaments, cut through the darkness of the room. They crisscross the air, creating a web of light that slowly shifts as the earth turns. Floating in these beams are millions of dust motes. They drift in the slow currents of the air, gold and silver specks turning in the void. In this lighting, they do not look like dirt. They look like tiny galaxies. They look like nebulae. We are standing inside a model of the universe. The geometry of thought. We wander deeper into the rotunda, moving along the curved walls. We are drawn to the shelves. The temptation to touch is overwhelming. Reach out your hand. Your fingertips graze the edge of one of the crystalline tablets. It is cold, colder than the air in the room. It feels dense, heavy with information. Run your finger over the surface. It is not smooth. It is etched. But these are not letters. They are not hieroglyphs representing birds or water or kings. They are textures. They are complex, microscopic waveforms etched directly into the atomic structure of the crystal. The narrative of this library suggests a civilization that had moved beyond the need for linear language. Why write down the word rain when you can record the vibration of the rain itself? Why describe the color blue when you can etch the frequency of the light? These tablets do not contain history. There are no lists of grain harvests here, no tax records, no treaties signed by long-dead generals. This is a repository of experience. Perhaps this tablet you are touching contains the memory of what it felt like to stand on the highest peak of the mountains before they eroded. Perhaps the one next to it holds the exact pattern of the stars as they appeared 10,000 years ago, a map of a sky that no longer exists. We touch upon the concept of forbidden knowledge. What did they know? These people who walked in silence. Perhaps they knew the true shape of the universe. While our ancestors were drawing maps of the coastline, perhaps these librarians were mapping the currents of the dark matter that binds the galaxies together. Perhaps they understood the language of the whales. Imagine a tablet that, when resonated correctly, sings the song of the deep ocean, a history of the world told by the leviathans in the black depths. Perhaps they knew the secret of gravity, or the source of the human soul. We run our hands over the shelves, feeling the texture of a language that was never spoken, only thought. It is a tactile braille of the mind, and here lies the tragic beauty of this place. We are standing in the midst of the greatest collection of wisdom the world has ever known. The answers to every question we have ever asked might be sitting right here, on a shelf of cold stone, within arm's reach, but we cannot read it. We have the book, but we have lost the eyes. A profound sense of melancholy washes over us. It is the sadness of the amnesiac. We feel a connection to this place, a deep resonance in our bones, but the specific words are gone. We are children playing with the encyclopedias of giants, and yet, there is even if we cannot decipher it, the mere existence of this place changes us. It proves that we are not the first to wonder. It proves that the desire to remember, to save the precious moments of existence from the erosion of time, is universal. They tried to save it all. They tried to bottle the starlight, and in a way, they succeeded. The wind chime of the ghosts as we stand there, lost in the reverence of the unreadable, the atmosphere in the dome begins to shift, from the high vents in the ceiling, or perhaps from the open archway behind us. A breeze enters the library. It is a gentle draft, carrying the cool scent of the desert night. It moves through the rotunda, circling the curved walls like a spirit walking the perimeter, and the library responds. The crystalline tablets are not fixed rigidly in their niches. They are balanced, resting on delicate points of fulcrum. As the air moves over them, they tremble. First one, then another, then 100. The thin sheets of crystal vibrate against the stone. Ting. A sound, high and clear as a silver bell, rings out in the silence. Ting. Chim. It spreads across the room. The breeze plays the shelves like a wind harp. The tablets jostle gently against one another, creating a cascading melody of glass and metal. It is not a chaotic noise. It is harmonic. Because the tablets were cut to specific sizes and thicknesses, each one produces a specific note. The library is singing. Close your eyes and listen. This is the voice of the lost data. It is a wind chime of forgotten wisdom. For a moment, it sounds like voices. 1,000 soft whispers overlapping in the dark. Is it the sound of their philosophy? Is it the sound of their poetry? Or is it simply the sound of the wind mourning the silence? The song swells, filling the dome with a mournful, beautiful resonance, and then, as the breeze dies down, it fades. The tablets settle back into stillness. The echoes retreat into the high darkness of the ceiling. The silence returns, heavy and absolute, but the feeling remains. We realize that the library is not dead. It is merely sleeping. It speaks only when the wind asks it to. We back away slowly, unwilling to turn our backs on such a sacred space. We step through the archway, back out into the silver light of the city square. Behind us, the dome sits dark and quiet, holding its secrets tight against its chest. The dust motes continue their slow, galactic dance in the beams of starlight. Watched only by the ghosts of the librarians, we leave the knowledge there, safe in the dark. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, or perhaps it is waiting for a time when we have learned how to listen with more than just our ears. The wind sighs one last time. A single chime rings out, a final note of farewell, and then, silence. The garden of suspended time, the sanctuary of the violet leaf. We leave the library of crystal and silence, stepping back out under the canopy of the eternal night. We move now toward the very heart of the forbidden city. In the center of the stone labyrinth, sheltered by high walls that block the harsh winds of the desert, lies a gate different from the others. It is not made of obsidian. It is not made of gold. It is an archway formed by two trees ancient, gnarled, and intertwined, their branches fused together to form a living threshold. We pass beneath the boughs, and suddenly, the world of stone falls away. We have entered the garden of suspended time, in a place that should be dead, in a wasteland where rain has not fallen for centuries. We find the impossible. We find a sanctuary, but this is not a garden as we know it. There is no riot of green growth here. There is no rustle of leaves in the breeze. The stillness here is absolute, deeper even than the silence of the library. Look at the trees that line the path. They are not like the palms of the oasis or the oaks of the west. Their bark is the color of polished silver, shimmering faintly in the starlight. Their leaves are not green, but a deep, dark violet, curling inward like hands protecting a flame. They are species that have no name in modern botany. They belong to an epoch when the earth dreamed different dreams. And as you look closer, you realize the strangest truth of all. They are not growing, but neither are they dying. A vine hangs from a trellis of white marble. It is frozen in mid-curl, its tendrils reaching out for a support it touched 1,000 years ago. A flower sits upon a bush, its petals fully open, revealing a heart of gold pollen. In any other place, this flower would have wilted in a day. Here, it has held its pose for a millennium. They are in a state of suspended animation. It is as if the time in this garden has simply stopped. The sap in the veins of the trees has turned to amber. The moisture in the leaves has become a kind of resin. They are waiting. The air here is thick, heavy, and intoxicating. It does not smell of rot or decay. It smells of dried herbs, of sage, of lavender, of ancient soil that has been baked by the sun and cooled by the moon. It smells of the incense used in temples that have long since crumbled to dust. It is the perfume of memory. Walk slowly along the path. Do not touch the leaves, for they might crumble at the weight of a modern hand. Simply witness them. This is the preservation of life, carried out with the precision of a ritual. The civilization that lived here knew that the desert was coming. They knew the water was retreating, and so, they did not fight the inevitable. Instead, they cast a spell of sleep upon their garden. They put the green world into a coma, preserving the geometry of the rose and the architecture of the fern, saving them for a future rain that hasn't fallen yet. The mirror of the constellations, we move deeper into the sanctuary. The path beneath our feet changes. It is no longer the smooth pavement of the city streets. It is crushed white stone, glowing pale in the darkness like a river of milk. Notice the shape of the path. It does not lead in a straight line. It spirals. It curves gently inward, mimicking the shape of a nautilus shell or the arm of a galaxy. We explore the spiritual significance of this layout. In the ancient world, a garden was never just a collection of plants. It was a model of the cosmos. As above, so below. The gardeners of this city were astronomers. They planted their trees to mirror the stars. Look up at the sky. See the constellation of the hunter? Look down at the earth. The arrangement of the silver trees corresponds perfectly to the position of those stars. The garden is a star map made of roots and branches. We walk the spiral, moving closer to the center. To our left and right, we see the ghosts of water. There are channels cut into the stone, intricate aqueducts that weave through the flower beds. They are dry now, filled only with the fine layer of dust, but the stone is worn smooth, eroded by the gentle friction of flowing water over centuries. Close your eyes. Listen to the silence. Can you hear the ghost of the water? If you listen closely enough, you can almost hear the trickling of the streams that once fed this place. You can hear the splash of a fountain that has been dry since the fall of Rome. You can hear the wet, rhythmic pulse that used to beat at the heart of the city. This garden was their pride. It was their promise to the future. We reflect on the concept of stewardship. This civilization did not see themselves as the owners of the land. They saw themselves as its gardeners. They understood that they were merely passing through. And when the great change came, when the climate shifted, when the rivers dried up, when the sun grew harsh, they made a choice. They did not try to take the garden with them. They preserved it. They created a seed bank of the soul. Every silver tree, every violet leaf, is a genetic arc. They are sleeping soldiers of the earth, wrapped in a blanket of stillness, waiting for the signal to wake up. It is a moment of deep connection. Standing here, surrounded by these silent, frozen sentinels, we feel the fragility of green things in a universe made of stone and fire. We realize how precious a single leaf is, how miraculous a single flower. They saved what they loved. They froze it in time so that it would not be lost to the hunger of the sand, the well of the deep earth. The spiral path tightens. We have reached the center of the garden. There is no statue here, no throne. There is only a well. It is a simple, circular opening in the earth, rimmed with stones that have been polished by the hands of thousands of people who once came here to draw water. We approach the edge. We lean over and look down. It is dark, a darkness so deep it feels solid. The moonlight goes down a few feet and then is swallowed by the abyss. But breathe in. The scent rising from this well is different from the dry, herbal scent of the garden. It smells cold. It smells sharp. It smells of wet rock and deep, sunless caverns. The water is still there. Far, far below the surface of the desert, beneath the layers of sand and sandstone, beneath the foundations of the city, the deep veins of the earth are still flowing. The subterranean rivers that kept the city alive are still running in the dark. The well is the connection. It is the umbilical cord that ties the sleeping garden to the living heart of the planet. The water has retreated, yes, but it has not vanished. It is merely waiting in the deep, protecting itself from the evaporation of the sun. This is the final secret of the garden. It is not dead. It is merely holding its breath. The roots of the silver trees go down deep, miles deep, tapping into the moisture that lingers in the cracks of the bedrock. They are sipping at the memory of water, keeping the spark of life alive within the dry bark. We stand at the edge of the well, suspended between the stars above and the water below. We are in the nexus of the world. The feeling here is one of immense, patient hope. The city knows that the cycle will turn. It knows that the rains will return, perhaps in 10,000 years, perhaps in tomorrow. And when they do, the water will rise in the well. The sap will flow in the silver trees. The violet leaves will unfurl. The flowers will release their pollen, and the garden will wake from its long dream. But for now, it sleeps, and we must let it sleep. We step back from the edge of the well. We retrace our steps along the spiral path, walking back through the frozen vineyard, back under the boughs of the intertwined trees. We leave the sanctuary as we found it, silent, fragrant, and suspended in the amber of time. We carry with us the scent of dried sage and the knowledge that even in the driest desert, life finds a way to wait for the rain. The gate of the living trees closes behind us. The garden returns to its solitude, and the silence of the night wraps around us like a blanket, heavy and soft and full of dreams. The machine of the celestial spheres, the cathedral of gears, we have walked the avenue of silence. We have stood in the library of dust. We have breathed the scent of the suspended garden. Now, we must ascend. At the very center of the city, rising above the library and the square, stands the spire. It is the highest point of the civilization, a needle of white stone that pierces the lower atmosphere. It does not look like a dwelling. It looks like an axle around which the sky might turn. We climb the spiral stair. The steps are worn smooth, dished in the center by the passage of feet over millennia. The air grows thinner, colder, and cleaner with every revolution. We are climbing into the throat of the city. At the pinnacle of the tower, we reach a door. It is not made of wood or stone, but of a heavy, dull metal of bronze that has turned green with the kiss of the centuries, covered in a patina of oxidation that looks like velvet. There is no handle, only a heavy wheel, like the hatch of a submarine or the vault of a bank. We turn it. The metal groans a low, resonant sound that vibrates through our bones. The door swings inward, and we step into the machine room. The space is vast, vaulted, and filled with shadows. Shafts of moonlight cut through high, narrow windows, illuminating a scene of breathtaking, frozen complexity. We are standing inside a clock. But this is not a clock for telling the time of day. There are no hour hands here. There are no minute hands chasing each other around a dial. This is a machine built to measure the breadth of the universe. The room is dominated by gears, massive, toothed wheels of bronze and brass, some as large as a house, others as small as a coin. They hang suspended in the air, interlocked in a three-dimensional dance that has been frozen in mid-step. The metal is strange. It glows with a dull, internal warmth. It has not rusted. It has not pitted. It is an alloy lost to modern science. A living metal that was forged to endure the death of stars. Walk carefully through the labyrinth of machinery. We pass beneath great drive shafts that hang silent overhead. We step over escapements that are poised, tension holding them tight. The atmosphere here is thick with potential energy. You can feel it on your skin. It is the feeling of a bowstring drawn back to your ear, holding the arrow, waiting for the release. Everything is heavy. The counterweights hang on thick chains that disappear into the dark shafts of the floor, dropping down into the deep foundation of the earth. They are the batteries of this device, holding the gravity of the planet captive. This is the timekeeper. It is the heart of the city. And for the first time since we arrived, we understand the true nature of this civilization. They were not just architects. They were engineers of the fourth dimension. The rhythm of the spheres let us look closer at the details of this sleeping giant. the beauty of the machine lies in its analog complexity. There are no circuits here, no silent flow of electrons. This is a machine of physics, of mass and momentum. It is a celebration of the fulcrum and the lever. We see a pendulum, a massive sphere of polished iron suspended on a rod of crystal. It hangs perfectly still at the bottom of its arc. If it were moving, its swing would take minutes to complete. A slow, hypnotic rhythm that would set the pace for the entire city. We see lenses of ground glass, positioned to catch the light of specific stars and focus them onto sensors of gold. This machine was powered by the alignment of the heavens. It was a terrestrial echo of the celestial mechanics above. The vocabulary of this room is the vocabulary of the cosmos. Axis, orbit, rotation, inertia. Imagine, for a moment, if this machine were running. Close your eyes and listen to the silence. Now, fill that silence with the phantom sound of the machine. It would not be a clatter. It would be a thrum, a deep, rhythmic heartbeat that would resonate through the floorboards of the tower, travel down the stone spine of the spire, and vibrate through the ground of the entire city. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The people who lived here would have felt this sound in their sleep. They would have walked in time with it. They lived inside the mechanism. The city itself was the clock case, and they were the figures moving on the dial. But did they try to stop time? Or did they try to slow it down? The gearing suggests a desire to sync their lives with a slower cycle. The ratios of the wheels are massive. One rotation of the drive gear might equal a human lifetime. One click of the escapement might mark the passing of a season. They were trying to escape the frantic, fleeting nature of human time. They wanted to live in geological time, or perhaps sidereal time. They wanted to anchor their civilization to something that did not fade. We run a hand along the teeth of a great brass gear. It is cold, smooth, and sharp. It is waiting. The torque is still there. The force is trapped in the metal, wanting to unwind, wanting to push the city forward into the future, but it cannot. The great pause. We reach the center of the mechanism, and here, we find the answer to the greatest mystery of all. Why is the city silent? We see the main drive shaft. We see the primary gear, the sun wheel, from which all movement originates, and there, wedged firmly between the teeth of the sun wheel and the housing of the frame, is a brake. It is a simple, brutal device. A thick bar of iron, engraved with symbols of caution and stasis. It has been pulled down. A locking pin has been inserted to hold it in place. The machine is not broken. It did not run down. It did not fail. It was stopped. Deliberately. We stare at the brake lever. We can almost see the hand that pulled it. We can imagine the scene. The chief engineer, standing here in the flickering torchlight, perhaps with tears in their eyes, making the final decision. Why pause a civilization? Perhaps they saw the dark age coming. They saw the drying of the waters, the cooling of the sun, or the approach of a barbaric age of war. They knew they could not survive it if they continued to move forward. To continue was to decay. To continue was to die. And so, they chose the only other option. They chose stasis. They decided to retreat into a dimension of stillness. To wait out the storm. To hibernate. They pulled the lever. They engaged the brake. And with a final, shuddering groan, the great pendulum slowed to a halt. The gears locked. The heartbeat of the city stopped. The vibration in the floorboards ceased. And the people lay down to sleep, or walked into the silence, knowing that their time had been preserved. This machine is a promise. It holds the next second trapped within its gears. It is holding the future in abeyance, keeping it safe until the world is ready for it. We stand before the brake lever. The temptation to pull the pin, to lift the bar, to restart the heart of the city, is overwhelming. But we do not touch it. We are visitors. We are witnesses. We are not the ones who get to decide when the time starts again. We leave the machine room with a sense of profound awe, not just at the engineering, the bronze and the glass and the gold, but at the ambition, the audacity to believe that one could engineer a relationship with time itself, to believe that a city could be paused like a song and resumed when the listener returned. We back out of the room. We turn the heavy wheel. We seal the bronze door. We leave the gears in the dark, bathed in the shafts of starlight, holding their breath. We descend the spiral stair, back down to the earth. back down to the silence. Above us, the machine of the celestial spheres waits, a sleeping giant, filled with the dreams of a lost age, waiting for the day when the stars align, and the brake is released, and the great pendulum begins to swing once more. The vanishing and the great silence, the anatomy of absence. We have walked the length of the city. We have touched the cold obsidian of the gate. We have listened to the wind harp of the library and smelled the suspended violet leaves of the garden. We have stood before the frozen gears of the great machine, and now we are left with the final, heavy question. The question that hangs in the air like smoke in a room where a candle has just been extinguished. Where did they go? In the history books of our own world, the end of a civilization is almost always a tragedy. It is a story written in fire and blood. We look for the layer of ash in the soil that speaks of a great burning. We look for the shattered tips of spears buried in the ribcages of the fallen. We look for the signs of panic, the hasty burials, the hoarded gold, the walls breached by battering rams. But here, there is nothing. Walk with me through the pristine streets. Look closely at the stones. There are no scorch marks. There are no cracks caused by the tremors of war. The cup we found on the ledge was not dropped in fear. It was placed there with care. The silence of the city is not the silence of the graveyard. It is the silence of an empty room after a guest has graciously taken their leave. This chapter of the story does not begin with a scream. It begins with a whisper. We must reconstruct the mystery not as a crime scene, but as a ritual. We must peel back the layers of time and imagine the moment of the vanishing. It was not a collapse. It was a departure. It is said that in the final days, the people of the city did not look at the horizon with fear. They did not scan the desert for approaching armies. Instead, they looked to the sky. They were watchers of the celestial spheres. And perhaps, on a night much like this one, the great clock in the tower clicked into a specific alignment. The stars wheeled into a configuration that had not been seen for 25,000 years. The cycle was complete. The story was finished. And so, they decided to close the book. The night of the long walking let us visualize that final night. Imagine the air. It is cool, still, and smells of ozone and jasmine. The moon is full, bathing the white stone towers in a bath of silver light. The wind harps in the library are chiming softly, a gentle lullaby that drifts through the open windows. There is no panic in the streets. There is no running. Instead, there is a slow, rhythmic gathering. The doors of the houses open. The families step out. They are not carrying sacks of possessions. They are not loading carts with grain or gold. They are carrying nothing. They are wearing simple robes of white linen that flutter in the night breeze. They walk barefoot on the smooth pavement, moving towards the center of the city, towards the great square where the astronomical mirror reflects the heavens. It is a procession of silence. Imagine the sound of thousands of bare feet moving in unison on the stone. It sounds like the rustle of dry leaves. It sounds like the ocean breathing. They gather in the square. They stand shoulder to shoulder, a sea of calm faces turned upward toward the stars. There is no weeping. There is a sense of profound, heavy acceptance. They have done what they came to do. They have built the garden. They have recorded the vibrations of the universe. They have honored the earth. And now it is time to give the space back to the silence. The narrative arc here suggests a sublimation rather than a migration. Where did they go? Some whispers tell us that they simply walked into the desert, that they opened the gates and marched out into the dunes, walking until their physical forms dissolved into the heat haze, until they became the wind itself. That if you listen to the sandstorms that howl around these ruins today, you are hearing the voices of the vanished, singing their eternal song. Others believe they went down, that beneath the great square, beneath the roots of the silver trees, there are chambers deep in the bedrock. Vast, cool halls carved from the living stone, prepared centuries in advance for this very moment. That they entered the earth like seeds returning to the soil, sealing the heavy stone doors from the inside, waiting out the eons in a deep, dreamless hibernation. But there's another possibility, a more poetic, more spiritual possibility. Perhaps they did not go anywhere. Perhaps they simply ceased to be solid. In a civilization that understood the physics of vibration and the geometry of light, Perhaps they learned how to change their frequency. Perhaps, as the great machine in the tower slowed to a halt, they synced their own heartbeats with the fading rhythm of the city. They became shadows. They became echoes. They stepped sideways, out of the stream of time, and into the stillness of eternity. This concept of voluntary erasure is a difficult one for us to understand. We are a people who fight to remain. We build monuments to shout our names into the future. We fear being forgotten. But these people, they did not fear the silence. They revered it. They understood that a story is only meaningful if it has an ending. To drag a civilization on past its prime, to watch it decay into decadence and war, would be an insult to its beauty. And so, they chose to end it on their own terms. It is a comforting, albeit melancholy, thought. The city was not taken from them. The desert did not conquer them. They gave it back. They folded up their history like a precious cloth, and laid it away in the dark. We feel the weight of their absence. But it is not an empty absence. It is full. The air here is charged with their intention. The streets are not vacant. They are expectant. The closing of the gate, and now, we come to the final image. The last moment of the history. The square is empty. The people have gone into the wind, into the earth, or into the light. Only one figure remains. We imagine the guardian, the keeper of the gate. He stands at the threshold of the obsidian monolith. He looks back at the city one last time. He sees the silver towers glowing in the moonlight. He sees the library holding its breath. He sees the garden suspended in its amber dream. He sees the great machine frozen in the tower. It is perfect. It is finished. There is no regret in his eyes, only the peace of a job completed. He turns away from the city. He steps out into the desert night. He reaches out his hand to the mechanism of the gate. He touches the crystal. He speaks the final word, the closing note of the song, and the massive slab of black stone begins to move. It does not dissolve into mist this time. It solidifies. It becomes heavy, impenetrable, final. Thud. The sound of the gate closing is the sound of a book being shut. It echoes across the dunes, rolling out over the sand like a thunderclap. And then, silence. The seal is set. The memory is locked away. The guardian turns and walks into the darkness, leaving no footprints, and the city is left alone. It waits. It waits for the wind to bury it. It waits for the sand to rise up against the walls, climbing higher and higher until the towers are hidden, until the map is blank once more. It waits for us. We are the first to find it since that night. We are the first to break the seal. And as we stand here, at the end of our journey, we realize that we are not here to wake the city up. We are not here to restart the machine or water the garden. We are here simply to witness, to acknowledge that they existed, to honor the silence they left behind. The wind picks up, blowing sand across the toes of our boots. The moon begins to set, dipping below the western horizon. The shadows lengthen and merge, swallowing the streets in darkness. It is time for us to leave as well. We back away from the mystery. We let the curtain fall. We leave the forbidden city to its slumber, knowing that in the deep, quiet corners of the earth, there are still places where magic waits, preserved in the dark, watching the stars turn, forever and ever. Sleep now. The story is told. The gate is closed. The silence is yours. Good night. The return of the sand, the great eraser, the gate has closed. The echo of the heavy stone ceiling shut has faded into the vast, absorbing quiet of the desert. The guardian has walked away, leaving no footprints, vanishing into the folds of the night. And now, the city is alone. It is finished. The story of the people, the builders, the stargazers, it has been written, read, and closed. Now begins the story of the earth. We stand in the darkness, hovering like spirits above the obsidian walls, and we watch the beginning of the long, slow work of time. It does not happen all at once. The earth is patient. The earth knows that it has all of eternity to reclaim what is its own. Listen. Can you hear it? It is a sound softer than a whisper. It is a hiss, a gentle abrasion. It is the wind. The wind rises from the open waste, carrying with it the millions of tiny grains of silica and quartz that make up the ocean of the desert. It strikes the black wall. Shh! It strikes the silver towers. Shh! This is the great eraser. We watch, and time begins to speed up in our vision. The minutes bleed into hours. The hours dissolve into years. The years stack up like layers of sediment, turning into centuries. We are watching a time-lapse of entropy, but it is not a violent destruction. It is a soft burial. Watch the base of the obsidian gate. The sand begins to drift against it. At first, it is just a dusting, a fine layer of gold powder on the black stone. But the wind is relentless. The drift grows. It becomes a mound. It becomes a hill. The sand climbs the wall inch by inch, century by century. It is like a tide rising in slow motion. It swallows the carvings of the star charts. It covers the geometric lines. It fills the deep grooves where the history was written. It is smoothing the edges, the sharp corners of the architecture, cut with such precision by the ancient engineers, begin to soften. The wind rounds them off. The distinct, jagged silhouette of the city against the sky begins to blur. Nature does not like straight lines. Nature loves the curve. Nature loves the mound. And so, the desert wraps its arms around the city and begins to hug it tight. It is a gesture of tenderness. We often think of dust to dust as a curse, a sign of our mortality. But here, under the watching stars, it feels like a promise. It is a promise of rest. The city has worked hard. It has held its shape against the chaos for 5,000 years. Now, it is allowed to let go. It is allowed to sleep under the weight of the warm, dry blanket of the sand. The ripple in the dunes as the sand rises. The perspective shifts. We pull back, floating higher into the atmosphere, looking down at the transformation. The streets, once paved with white stone that rang with the footsteps of the astronomers, are gone. They are buried deep beneath the dunes. The public square, where the great mirror tilted toward the heavens, is submerged. The mirror itself is covered, protected from the scratching wind by a cushion of soft earth. Only the tops of the highest towers remain visible. They look like islands in a golden sea. The silver spires, once the tallest points of civilization, are now just low, metallic rocks jutting out of the landscape. And then, even they disappear. The vines, if this were the jungle, would be weaving a net of green over the stone, pulling it down into the mulch. But here, it is the sand. It flows over the peaks of the towers. It fills the gaps between the spires. The city is drowning in dry gold, but it is not dead. It is safe. Think of the treasures hidden down there. The library of crystal tablets, still trembling in the dark. The machine with its bronze gears locked in stasis. The garden with its violet leaves suspended in time. They are all still there, perfectly preserved, encased in the earth like a fly in amber. By burying them, the desert is saving them. It is hiding them from the looters. It is hiding them from the harsh sun. It is hiding them from the inevitable decay of the air. We watch as the landscape flattens out. The jagged skyline is replaced by the gentle, rolling undulation of the dunes. If a traveler were to walk past here now, 1,000 years after the closing of the gate, they would see nothing. They would see only the endless rhythm of the sand. Perhaps, if they had a keen eye, they might notice a slight irregularity in the horizon, a ripple in the dunes that doesn't quite match the direction of the wind, a strange, symmetrical hummock in the middle of the flat waste. They might pause. They might feel a strange vibration in the soles of their feet, the faint echo of the machine sleeping miles below. They might smell a sudden, inexplicable scent of jasmine and ozone. But they would not stop. They would adjust their pack, look at their compass, and keep walking. The map remains blank. We reflect on this idea. The mapmakers of the world hate blank spaces. They want to fill them with names and coordinates. But we realize now that the blank space is an act of respect. Some secrets are meant to be kept. To find the city would be to destroy it. To excavate the gate would be to let the magic leak out. To put the crystal tablets in a museum would be to silence their song. The magic exists because it is hidden. The wonder exists because it is a secret. We, the travelers who have witnessed it, realize that we cannot take anything from this place. We cannot take a shard of pottery. We cannot take a rubbing of the carvings. We cannot even take the coordinates. We must leave it as we found it. A whisper, a rumor, a dream. The eternal vigil, the burial, is complete. The city has vanished. The surface of the earth is smooth once more, as if the civilization never existed at all. We begin to drift away. We are pulling back, moving backwards through the cool night air, retreating from the sanctity of the grave. The landscape widens. The dunes stretch out to the left and to the right, an infinite ocean of silence. The horizon is a flat, dark line where the earth meets the sky. And then, the lights return. One by one, the stars come out. They pierce the veil of the twilight, the same stars that the astronomers watched from their silver towers. The hunter, the bull, the seven sisters, they look down on the empty expanse. They gaze upon the place where the city used to be. They are the only true witnesses. They saw the first stone being laid. They saw the first fire being lit. They saw the machine begin to turn. They saw the garden bloom. And they saw the gate close. And now, they watch over the sleep. There is a profound peace in this realization. The city is not lost. It is watched. It is held in the gaze of the cosmos. The wind dies down. The work of the eraser is done. The sand settles. The silence that descends now is different from the silence of the library or the gate. It is the deep silence. It is the silence of geology. It is the silence of a planet that is resting. We feel a heaviness in our own limbs. The journey is over. The mystery has been explored, honored, and put back to bed. It is time for us to rest as well. Let the image of the rolling dunes fill your mind. Let the golden sand become a soft, warm weight that presses you down into sleep. Let the stars be your nightlight. You do not need to remember the way back. The tracks have been covered. The path is gone. The city is safe. You are safe. Everything is exactly where it is meant to be. Wrapped in the dark, covered in the quiet, dreaming in the deep. Drift away now. Drift into the white space of the map. Drift into the return of the sand. Good night.